Okay, thank you everyone for joining. This is the ANC3C's Community Engagement Grants Committee. I'm presiding as the chairman of the committee, and we have a grant application before us from the Woodland-Normanstone Neighborhood Association. We're not going to take roll or anything. This is not a decision-making meeting. This is for making presentations and asking questions and sort of airing out issues. The ANC committee as a whole will make any final decisions in plenary. The next meeting is scheduled for May. I think it's May 20th. Might be wrong on that. So that's the next opportunity to approve grants. The application has been circulated among commissioners. Right now I see 3 commissioners on the call. Myself, Chair Pagatz, and Commissioner Prinzo. So we have had the opportunity, although I don't know if everyone's read it, but what I'd like to ask is that Marianne and Amy make a short presentation of the grant application and of the project, and then we'll ask any questions or raise any concerns that we have as we go. And again, we won't make any final decisions, but maybe we can get a sense of what direction we're headed at the end of the meeting. So how does that sound for a meeting? We probably won't take the full hour. Maybe we'll take as long as we want.
Would it be possible to for me to share a screen just to put a map up to?
Totally. I'm going to make you the co-host now.
Okay.
Co-host, and then you should be able to see the share screen button at the bottom.
Great. And
yeah, Gwen, I think that sounds fine. Amy, yeah, before you show the map, I can just talk about what we thought we would do is I would just introduce the neighborhood and the association for those who may not be terribly familiar with us, and then briefly, and then Amy will talk through the highlights of the proposal, and then we would just open it up for your questions and thoughts, etc. Okay, so the WNNA, the Woodland-Normanstone Neighborhood Association, represents about 140 homes. So we're a small neighborhood. We're tucked back behind the Omni Shoreham Hotel. So if you follow Calvert, we start at 28th Street, just behind the hotel and the co-op building there. And then you follow us through Calvert to Cleveland, across to Garfield, down Mass Ave, and back up to 28th. So now, yes, so you can see the dark green is actually our neighborhood. And it's a really interesting neighborhood because, in fact, the boundaries of the neighborhood were created by an act of Congress in 1910, specifically to preserve the woodland nature of the neighborhood with a series of curvilinear streets. So we were exempted from the L'Enfant grid plan back 120 years ago or so. And it's mostly single family, all single family. We have a range of families, from very young family raising children to empty nesters to longtime residents who are now retired. And we have residents from over 20 countries. We have the residents of a number of ambassadors and embassy staff. So in addition to these homes, which you see sort of in the top of the neighborhood, we have, you can see along what is the southwestern edge, you see this urban forest and this wooded thoroughfare that services both commuter traffic and walkers really from around the city. So just to give you a sense, that is what we are looking at. We're most of this ANC3C on this map, if you look, is north of us, right? Because Rock Creek Park is kind of along, along the eastern border here. Okay, So I don't know if we want to keep looking at the map or if you have any questions about that space, but we will talk about the project and why it is so important to us, both in the neighborhood and across the ANC and the city. So let me just, so the Woodland-Normanstone Neighborhood Association, I am president of. Amy is our treasurer. We have a board of 9 people, typically 9 to 12, depending on who's coming and going. It was incorporated in March 1989 as a 501c3 to promote the civic welfare and preserve and protect the natural environment created by the Act of Congress that established our borders. So we've, over the last 35 years, basically this organization, I have not been involved for 35 years, has been working continuously to protect and enhance the integrity of the neighborhood and the health and vitality of the environment, which contributes substantially not only to our health, but to those around us with all the green, as we now know. So we raise and invest thousands of dollars every year to build out and maintain public spaces, keep the sidewalks and roads cleared in terms of what the city does and doesn't do. And we have long worked with our council member, our ANC rep, DDOT and its urban forestry. We work with so many city agencies, it's almost terrifying. A DOEE, DPW, DC Water, National Park Service, because they own some of the land in that parkland, and Rock Creek Conservancy, which is a nonprofit with the
Uh-oh,
I think you
Is-
froze.
Marianne. Usually it's me freezing, so I assumed it was me.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Really enjoying the history of this
I
neighborhood.
know. I didn't know about the Act of Congress. That's new for me.
The suspense is now killing me.
I might have her introduction here that I could read from where she dropped off if you want, until she gets back on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see, where was she? She was talking about
All
Yeah,
the
how-
agencies you work with, yeah.
yes, right. And basically, and including the Rock Creek Conservancy, who we've worked with to preserve and enhance the natural beauty and safety of the public spaces within our boundaries that benefit residents across the area. As just a few examples over the years, this has included working with a local nonprofit, Casey Trees, and neighborhood volunteers to plant over 100 street trees on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the creation of our neighborhood. As highlighted in our grant application, we worked closely with our ANC and DDOT for over 7 years on a major renovation of the roadway and stormwater management system for Normanstone Drive and Fulton Street. And we've been bringing together neighborhood volunteers. We've planted over 18,000 daffodils in the Normanstone Creek Valley in the last 5 years. Hi, Marianne. Are you back?
sorry.
I was
Yes.
reading your text.
Oh, keep going, that's fine.
Okay.
My internet like totally blanked out, but
No
went
problem.
red. The router, here we are, thank you.
Okay, well, we're almost done here, so I'll just finish.
Okay,
One of the things we've learned in recent years is that DDOT and DOEE do not have maintenance budgets to care for this area. At the same time, since the start of the pandemic, we have seen a considerable increase in pedestrian traffic on Normanstone and Fulton because people are enjoying the environment. And this is carried on even post-COVID, that the number of ANC residents who like to walk and bike our street is really quite large. And so this has led us to seek out the comprehensive maintenance plan described in our grant application to preserve and sustain the health of this area over time. So we're grateful for your consideration to support this plan. And then I'm going to now present the actual plan, and then Marianne and I are available for Q&A or any comments afterwards. Okay? Keep going. Okay, so now I'm
Yes,
going to
go ahead.
share screen again. Let's see. Share. Okay, so this is the map. And the Normanstone Creek meanders through this wooded forest before it enters into Rock Creek. Rock Creek down at the lower right-hand corner. And tonight we're going to talk about Fulton Street, which comes off of 34th Street. This is the entrance to the Naval Observatory and the Vice President's house. Fulton Street comes off of 34th Street, meanders down, starts following the creek down to the intersection with 32nd Street. And that's the area of our project. And now let me just figure out how to get to the next one. That's the wrong. Hang on one sec. Can't seem to progress the slide. So I'm going to move this over here. Do you all see this?
We see the map. It's possible. So when you go to the share screen, sometimes it just selects certain like windows or programs.
Got it.
Yeah. So
There it is.
Unshare, then go back and share the thing that
Okay.
there you go.
Okay, that's great. Okay. So so this is a slight aerial view of part of our neighborhood, and to the north, as Marianne said, this is basically the full ANC here. This is 34th Street. The Vice President's house is over here. And in light blue is the Fulton Street area of our project. So the brief history of the project is, as Marianne mentioned, we worked between 2013 and 2018 with DDOT to rebuild the road on Fulton Street as well as Normanstone Drive. And DDOT installed a large number of these stormwater swales or facilities that if you've walked around there, you've seen them. They're like stepped areas that are supposed to hold the rainwater until it can soak into the ground instead of rushing into the creek and eroding and destroying the valley. When they built them, DDOT told us that they did not have any funds to maintain them. And at that time, we didn't quite understand what that meant, but we soon found out as all of the invasive plants started to encroach on the stormwater swales and eventually rendered them all, just choked off the native plants and rendered the whole thing unworkable. So in 2021 and 22, we partnered with the Rock Creek Conservancy, where WNNA paid the Rock Creek Conservancy money for their contractors to come in, and we had a test area that was more down, if you can look at the map again, down here in this area, that they were going to remove invasives, treat everything, plant new natives, and we thought this would work. Well, it failed miserably. They didn't really fully treat, they didn't really fully remove the invasives, and what they planted were tiny little things that quickly died. So we decided not to do that project anymore. We started to look at alternatives. We looked into having a goat company come in and have goats roam the Creek Valley and eat it all, but no goat company will come into the district because the district health department requires goats to get vaccinated in order to be brought into the city. And you're talking like 100 goats that's very costly. So we couldn't get a goat company interested. So we hit upon Shore Landscaping Company, and you might have seen them around your neighborhood. They do work all over the city. It's a landscape contractor. They have done projects with the district, and they're very knowledgeable about how to deal with invasive plants. And it was their idea that we take an area, and we decided Fulton Street would be the best area because Fulton is at the top of the hill. And the invasive, basically, they roll down the hill and down the Creek Valley, and we could get a hold of it up at the top. We have a chance at, affecting the entire valley. And that they would mow and remove them in that area, and they would use a herbicide that DC Department of Energy and Environment allows under their regulations to treat the area. And then they would put mulch all over the area so to discourage weeds. So what you see here, if y'all can see this, there are two photographs. On the left, you can see one of the people from Shorb removing the overgrowth and the weeds they're on the sidewalk. And this had gotten so bad you couldn't walk on the sidewalk. It was completely closed in with like 5-foot tall weeds and burrs. On the right of that photo, you see one of the stormwater management swales with the black little bridges that come across that are supposed to hold the water until it can soak in. And then on the right is an image looking back up towards the stop sign is at 34th Street. And as soon as Shorb finished their work, a DOEE who had told us that they did have a little bit of funds in last year to do some maintenance on some of these bioswales that DDOT had installed all across the city, and that they would spend a small amount on the ones on Fulton Street. So you see new plants. They cleaned out the bioswales, and you can see the new plants that they put in, new native plants in their swales. And there's another swale here. Shorb, we promised that we would stay out of your swales because you're going to maintain those. This is what we said to DOEE. But DOEE does not have funds and will not maintain the areas outside of those swales. So, and we've tried for years to get DDOT and DPW to do it, and it's impossible. So we said, fine, we'll have Shorb clear the areas on either side of the sidewalk. And they won't go in your swales, but they'll do between the swales and then also on the other side of the sidewalk against the woods. And so you can see that in this photograph, they've spread their mulch over after they cleaned it. And this is what it looked like last December 1st. So we've now entered, as our grant application explains, we've entered into a new contract with Shorb for this year, 2024. Where they will come basically every 2 weeks, and they will maintain this area. They will mow, they will remove weeds, they will treat the ones that can be treated, and they will keep the invasives at bay. So here in April, probably late March or early April, they showed up for their first visit, and you can see them up there removing weeds and everything. In the lower right, you see some of the daffodils that we also planted last November along Fulton Street. And I just spoke today with the Department of Energy and Environment person who had done the planting of the swales, and he confirmed for me that they do have funding this year for the 3rd and 4th quarter to maintain their swales. So we think that if we can continue to remove the invasives for 2 to 3 years is what Shorb thinks. And then when they're really more fully removed, we come in and we would plant native plants that hopefully would eventually outgrow the invasives, which would continue to be removed until eventually it's a self-sustaining environment. That is our plan. So, are there any questions on the plan or any questions about anything?
Anybody want to come in? Janelle?
This looks awesome. And thank you guys for taking this on and applying for this grant. I'm curious. I know there's a lot of schools around there. Like, are there any opportunities, and if there are already these plaques like that kind of go through the history? Like I'm sure y'all are familiar with some of the call boxes that we have in the neighborhood and stuff. And I know I'm downtown in the Golden Triangle area, and where they have a bunch of these bioswale things that are put up by DDOT, and they have like a little explainer about the plants in it, and it always fascinates me, and I think it's just adorable to be able to learn a little bit about, one, what a bioswale is, and two, which I know from my professional environment anyways, but a little bit about like the native plants, and then like also the history that you all told about the neighborhood is also really interesting. And I'm wondering if, like, we're funding this grant, if there's also that opportunity to put permanent markers out there that talk about some of these things. And hopefully the bioswales are permanent.
Right. Well, our organization, that's a great idea. And our organization has already redone the two call boxes in our neighborhood, one of which highlights the history with the act of Congress and the fact, and we actually, on it, we have a map of what the neighborhood would have looked like if the city grid came across it versus what actually got built with the curvy roads that work with the topography. The other call box basically just talks about all the flora and fauna that are in the Creek Valley. But I do think ultimately there is a wonderful educational opportunity here for people walking on the street to learn about the project and to learn about, you know, the environment and what people can do. I'm not quite sure, it's not in this year's contract to do that, but it's something maybe we would consider for next year. Marianne?
Yes, had we done plaques in the ground, they would have all been grown over and disappeared. But you know, it's really interesting. We were very excited about the goat project, and we asked one of the goat companies if they would do educational programs for the kids, because we thought that would be so fascinating, because the goats actually eat all the roots, all the invasives down to the roots. But as Amy said, there were a whole series of reasons that did not work out. So yeah, I mean, we should think about that. There's so much to learn about this. I just, you know, we did the call boxes. We don't have any call boxes down in that area. But we could think about it. The National Park Service and DDOT have all kinds of rules about what kind of signs you can put up and stuff like that. So we'll have to think about that, but it's a nice idea.
Yeah, we're very well aware of. But I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the animal art sculptures that we were able to get installed on Connecticut, which was quite a feat with dealing with, you know, DDOT, Commission of Fine Arts, NCPC, all of it. So I just think it enlivens and enriches the community and the neighborhood anytime we can do like more of this education type stuff with beautification programs.
Yeah.
Yes, and you know.
We have a longtime resident. She grew up in this neighborhood. And she has a house that backs this street. And she tells stories reminiscing about benches that were in various areas along this roadway where they could sit and, you know, gather, chat, whatever. So there's there is a history of having this be an area where people really spend time and immerse themselves in the space.
Cool.
Can I say a couple things? Number one, so thanks for the presentation. I think it's great that the neighborhood association has taken this on, even if DDOT and DPW and stuff forth are a bit neglectful, but it is beautiful. It's such a beautiful bit of our neighborhood. I like to walk and run through that stretch a lot. It's really gorgeous. And I also just a few comments. One is I have a little pet issue, which is trying to clean up Rock Creek and also Normanstone. And you probably know that for whatever reason, Normanstone is quite dirty, that for reasons that aren't totally clear to me, or at least the creek at where Normanstone intersects with it is dirty when they do the testing there. It's one of the highest pollution sites.
Now you for
Oh dear. Oh no. Now a lot of people are frozen.
Oh, Marianne also, just you and me? And is Adam there? He's muted.
I would have to
Yeah.
assume that's the topography though of things going downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Gawain is talking about, oh, he's back. Okay, great.
Sorry
Oh,
about
you're
that.
yeah, you froze when you're
I'm
asking
here too. Sorry, I
about
was just muted.
Sorry about that. When did I lose you?
when you're asking the question about when they do the stormwater testing, it's always the most
Yes. Yeah. It's always the most, the where Normanstone comes in, it's always, the creek is the dirtiest. And I was, I don't think that's directly related to this project, although this project might help improve things. But I'm just curious if you have any reflections on that or thoughts on
Yeah.
why Normanstone might be so polluted.
Yeah, I actually live on Normanstone, and I've talked to the Audubon people who do the water testing. They've changed their name. I can't remember, Nature First or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also smell sewer gas sometimes, and I call the city, and then I talk to the guys that come out. And oftentimes when we smell the gas, they find a sewage leak. And what I've heard from everyone is that there are leaks in the sewers. It's a pretty large catchment area that feeds that, whose sewer lines come into the Normanstone Creek Valley and kind of follow the creek. And there are cracks in them.
Mhm.
And that's what's causing the horrible pollution. There
Mhm.
doesn't seem to be, a city effort to do a comprehensive study of where the cracks are so they can fix them. Instead, when it gets really bad, they put dye in one place and they find a crack and they fix it. And the smell goes away for a couple months, but then another one happens. So I wouldn't know how to approach the city to do such a
Yeah.
project.
it's DC water, and like the larger issue, and this is not unique to the District of Columbia. With sewer wastewater is my passion. I could talk about water, wastewater for days because it's essential to life and having a public health sewer system. Because people call it plumbing here in the United States, and everywhere else it's called public health, and that's always driven me a little not great. But it's because it's not a sexy project, it always gets put to the bottom of the budget bucket. And because politicians who are making those decisions can't go cut a ribbon on a wastewater pipe, it's like, But also, not having raw sewage flowing down the streets, I personally, and maybe I'm a little nuanced in this, is kind of essential. And like experiencing the smells and stuff like that, it's so much of a very expensive capital project because you can go and patch the pipes as much as you want, but until you do like a very expensive like overhaul of a very big part of the line, it doesn't really do much to solve the problem for very long. And it's really unfortunate. So I like to hear other people get passionate about wastewater as well. And unpolluting our waterways. It's kind of critical.
Well, I mean, I realize it's a little off topic here, but I just thought I'd mention it, and it's useful to hear from you, Amy, that you've observed this and that you've seen them patch. But anyway, I'm interested in it, and we'll over time like be thinking about it and so forth. But
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry,
ahead.
I've been going in and out, and I didn't hear all of what Amy said. She has been much more involved, but I sat in presentation. Didn't you host a presentation? Didn't our ANC host a presentation on Zoom from about
DC
one
water.
of the fixes that's going on upstream?
Yes.
DC
Yes.
water.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I asked very specifically how much this would could help our downstream problem. I did not get a sense that there was any focus on the downstream problem. I think, what you were saying that they picked big areas and, they were doing this big route around project, et cetera. But Gwen, I think it's a kind of thing that we have to collectively, like we've tried to chip away at this for years. Sometimes you're walking in the valley and there's just this awful smell and that there's some kind of rainwater overflow or whatever. Amy knows more details about what it is. I think, Wayne, this is a thing that the ANC and the council our council have to make a much louder case about, because it's really tragic and it's very unhealthy. And people let their dogs and their kids go in that water. Rock Creek, when we were working with Rock Creek Conservancy, they put those signs up, which are a little bit too subtle. There's a lot of content on the signs, but they don't say stop. Do not go in this water.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that I'm glad you're passionate about it, and I think it's going to take a big and longer effort to somehow figure out what the infrastructure plan is for this.
Yeah.
And if WNNA can, assist you by being another voice, we're happy to help out.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for that discussion. Again, it was a little off topic, but I just wanted to mention it. One other question. Just it's more about the neighborhood association. I know you have several diplomatic, residences or embassies sort of in that area, and I'm curious if they are participants in the association, or do you have relations with them, or how does that work, or does it work?
Well, right now, we have 7 members who come from the diplomatic communities. And that's more than we've ever had before. We reach out to them all the time. Oftentimes our WNNA holiday party is hosted at one of the ambassadors' houses or something. So they're involved in that, but they don't really join. They also, many of them rotate, of course, out, after a couple of years anyway.
Right.
But we do have 7 members. I think Finland is one, Australia's one. We have.
Yeah, Finland backs
7 out of 20?
24 or something.
24.
Okay.
Embassies.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Finland backs out right onto where that project is, so you kind of want them to be interested at least, because it's right there.
They've been very involved in the neighborhood. They've hosted our annual meeting. They do that is their embassy, but their ambassador also has a residence on Woodland. So they've been really nicely involved. The Australians have been involved, and others along the way. But it does depend on the particular ambassador, who he or she considering, our neighborhood as meaningful to them.
Okay, so Janelle or Adam, do you have any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you all have events that you invite the larger community to, the larger what the ANC consists of, so Woodley Park folks, Massachusetts Avenue Heights, and Cleveland Park folks?
Yeah, we'd like to get more involved. We had these daffodil plantings for 3 or 4 years. A couple of years we skipped during the pandemic, and we tried to get the word out because people could bring families, people could come to this area and plant these bulbs, which they would then come back and enjoy. So we have tried to reach out. We don't get a whole lot of participation. We more get participation, like I'll reach out to a friend who I know lives nearby or something, and then the personal connections. But yeah, we try.
Yeah, and we, as part of potentially giving you all this grant, would be happy to help, and that would help us justify a lot of the larger community being involved, because you all are at the tippity south end of the commission area, and we want to make sure that the things that we're funding have the potential they don't have the potential, but do benefit the entire area. So we have been working closely with the Cleveland and Woodley Park Main Streets organizations and their community associations as well, which we're all partners, including the ANC, on the Animal Arts Sculpture Project, which was kind of our first real tangible gathering of all of these organizations to do a project that spans the commission area. and we'd really like to continue to build on that momentum. So like if you know, you can use our ANC list to promote the daffodil building things. I mean, we'd have to send the email. We can't give you the names. But and then we can get you in touch with, if you don't already know them, the leadership of the other organizations to also tap into their organization membership. And I know like the Woodley Park Community Association opens up their summer picnic for free to anyone and everyone at the Mosquito Park, Woodley Park. Mosquito. Up here on Cortlandt Street, which is another great way to, like, you know, get folks out and involved in building community, build security, and all of the good stuff. So that's something that we've heavily been encouraging.
Yeah, so we have our small email list. We don't have a listserv. We use it for mostly for communicating events in the neighborhood and issues around safety and security in the neighborhood. But we have, you know, we know John Goodman, so if we, you know, we keep up with his stuff, and we give him stuff to put in his newsletter. But if you have, you should take pride in any support you provide to us and promote the area that's been cleared. People who walk there know they couldn't walk on the sidewalk last year. You know, the sidewalks are now clear. They will remain clear all summer. If you choose to fund part of it, you should take all the credit and promote as much as you want for, you know, people to, you know, come to this area. So, and we will certainly, to our audience, we think it's very good to have the ANC support, because I think it makes people feel like they're more willing to fund things themselves if they know they're not the only ones, you know, supporting this. So we hope that we'll get some synergy out of that as well.
Cool.
You're on mute, Gwen.
Sorry about that. I keep doing that. This seems good to me. So my plan now is I will prepare a draft resolution, basically approving the grant, and circulate it among. It'll be like a public document. You can look at it and also suggest edits or changes to it, and I'll circulate it among the commissioners in preparation for our May meeting, and then the commission as a whole will vote on it. So that's my plan at this point.
And it's May 20th at starts at 7 p.m.
And do you want us there?
Yeah, go ahead. Right, we usually ask for a very short presentation and the opportunity for members of the public to ask questions if they want to. So yes, we'll hope that one of you ideally would be able to be at the meeting and able to, again, present it very quickly and answer any questions.
Great. And is there anything else you need from us?
I don't think so. I'll draft a resolution and share it with you, and you can take a look and see if there's anything that you want to edit or change or suggest for it.
Great. So do you want 5-minute presentation?
It can be like.
It's really like, yeah, it's really almost pro forma just to introduce yourself and the project.
And do you think it's useful?
The application.
Sorry.
Just to say that the application will be posted on our website, or if it's not already, it will be posted on our website, so people can read it and have their own comments and stuff if they want to. The public will be able to. So in concept, you don't need to present it all again because it's already out there.
Okay, well, if you when we get closer, if you can think about the particular points that you think are most important or interesting for the group. Is this the ANC3 or all ANCs?
3C. It's
just.
Oh. Are you asking about the email address?
The May 20th meeting.
Oh yeah, it's all ANC3C. So all 8 of us. And we can't put grants on the consent calendar. They have to be like announced in the public meeting and voted on outside of the consent calendar. But I will say in the past, with this group of commissioners, we have not had a problem with questions that are my previous commission can't be said the same one. But usually commissioners are good if they have any questions. They'll ask them in the emails that we send around with the agenda and stuff when we notice the meeting the week before.
Okay. Is it a Zoom meeting?
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
And
Thanks.
we will wait to hear from you, and we'll try and keep our internets working.
Great. All right. Thank you all.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you. Have a
you.
good
Enjoy the summer weather.
Yes.
Yep.